Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how men heal after divorce? Well, you don't have to be a Packers fan to love this dude. So get ready to wake up the Giant. Good morning, Giants. Welcome
I see what you did there.
Well,
that was clever.
I'm pretty clever. That's why we get paid the big bucks.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, good morning, Giants. I'm Ryan Morris, co-creator of Wake Up with Giants TV, a tribe of giants, and 12 Journeys Coaching, and wrote a little book on kindness. It is this one, A Journey of Riches. 14 uplifting stories to warm your soul. And I'm here with Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls. He wrote this adorable book, and that's why we're here, is because he followed his intuition and wrote this beautiful book for the world, and has helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people at this point. Our goal is to help the one. But at this point, I have no idea how many we've helped, because we just keep stepping every day, and to help you through your Giants journey. And pretty dang excited to be on the train with Nicholas T. Smith. So
thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've got some great people in the chat already. Good morning,
Lori.
friends. We love you so much. Appreciate you being here. Everyone at home watching. We've got SG 15.
15, yep.
Starts on the 20th of October.
At 11 a.m. MDT, which is, I think, 6 p.m. UK and 4 a.m. Australia. So since we got people all over the world, 4 a.m., it's worth waking up for this.
Yeah.
So if you're in Australia, you got to do it. Remember, one of our participants got up at 3 a.m. in South Africa to be a part of this program every day.
That was cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's when you know you're committed to yourself.
You do it. And we're running a promo right now, which is really stupid price-wise, but phenomenal for you. It's only $250 to be a part of that 6-week program. You get access to all of our applications, 6 weeks of group coaching. It's hard to beat that for 6 weeks. It's a beautiful deal for you, but we wanted to get people to really experience this from all over the world. We've got people from the UK joining, here in the US. Come be a part of it, because we're probably not going to offer that for very long, just because it's a ridiculous value. So come be a part of it.
I wish we could just infuse it, give them a taste of what it's going to be like. Well, we kind of do.
Yeah.
A little bit every Sunday. Wake Up with Giants TV.
That's a good point, right?
Yeah,
Here we are doing that.
Get a little get a morsel. We have an amazing and Nick wrote The Tortoise's Hair as well, and we're fulfilling on the Kickstarter campaign that we did there, and we got the book finished because of a little bit of inflation. Expenses were a lot higher than we had ever anticipated they would be to get it finished. So we're working on finishing the fulfillment.
On that. Blame it on inflation.
Yeah, it's that, or I don't know. Can you say
it may be that this? Never mind. I'll get political. That'll be bad. But these books, these 2 books here, these are not put your kids to sleep books. So you don't grab these if you're trying to find something to put your kids asleep, because these will wake them up to their giant potential. So that's what you want to do, is slow down with your kids, read these, and really dive in. So, hey, Chris. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
follow
awesome.
Chris too. Chris wrote an amazing book as well. So follow him. Go check out what he's up to in the world. And so did Lori. We've got a group of amazing authors here today. This is fantastic. But with that, let's get to our guest. Let's kept him in suspense.
Cody, before I dive in too far, I want to make sure if we're good with language, I'll use language throughout. If we're not, I'll keep it clean so that you can reshare this, because I want to make sure that it's shareable for your audience. So
I'm good with anything. So
I think YouTube will demonetize, but outside of that, we're good.
let it rip. I want to hear the normal language. And by the way, what's funny is I am a Packers fan.
Are you?
Last name.
Yeah. That is awesome. I love it. That's hilarious.
Well, guys, we've got an incredible guest with us, someone whose mission is truly changing lives. Cody Mathieson Packer is on a journey to help men heal from within, empowering them to alchemize their divorce or separation into personal growth and new beginnings. Having grown up with a stutter, Cody embraced his voice as his greatest asset, turning it into a tool for coaching and filmmaking that inspires others. His work doesn't just end at coaching. He's also committed to raising the consciousness of the planet through storytelling. So join me in welcoming Cody Mathieson Packer as we explore his insights on transforming and finding inner power. It's good to have you here, man.
Great to be here, guys. I'm looking forward to where this goes.
We're going to put you in the spotlight here.
You got the picture where you can highlight your smushed hamburgers.
Sure.
Yeah. Where is it? This one, the smushed hamburgers.
Yeah. I'm not seeing it, dude. I'm not seeing it.
I don't see it either. I don't.
Yeah.
Someone was looking at my shirt like this.
They're like, oh yeah, see burgers. They must have been really hungry, honestly.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, our goal here is to wake people up to their giantness. We want them to see that the real ownership happens here first and then expresses out in the world from that. Yeah. And so often, especially with the topic that we're on today, so often it happens that, oh, this person did this and all of, it's pushed out. Yeah. And we know from our experience, as long as you keep it out here, there's no hope. You're always going to be the victim of your life. And so, but we like to start with your own journey of where you woke up to this. I mean, you probably, for a lot of people thought differently. You maybe thought even that the problem was out here. And then you had an awakening to that. Can you kind of walk us through who you thought you were at some point and how you woke up to that?
Absolutely. So I, like most people, was just what I call living asleep, okay. walking through. I was in a corporate job. I was living in Chicago at the time, and I was what I thought was happily married, even though a lot of stuff internally was kind of off. Like, I wasn't enjoying going to work. I was kind of, I'm normally a very creative person. When I was married at the time, I felt like so uncreative and just there was no like drive, determination. And then I kind of keep getting these hits after hits after hits after hits internally. And I didn't know what to do with them. So what I did is I actually started to help, try and put that energy outwards and tried to help my partner and kind of deflect the attention off what was going on internally. Mm-hmm. And then, the universe after a while was just like, okay, if you're not going to listen, we're going to make you listen. So
I went a way of doing that, doesn't it?
So it's amazing. It's always working for our evolution. So that's why
it doesn't feel amazing sometimes, but
no. In the moment, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I went into work one day and they were like, "Yeah, we're laying off 85 people just out of the blue." I was working at a huge ad agency. They're like, "Yeah, you're one of them," and they'd promised me this 2-3 year kind of vision, and I tried to cling on to that really, really badly. I was scared to let go, and I was scared to trust for it was my, I was getting security out of that job internally. And then a day later, I found out my wife at the time was cheating on me. And so it kind of, my whole life just kind of inverted and collapsed within like a day or two. And this is what I call the void. I got thrust into the void where it was just like me, just naked, no clothes on. It felt like where, everything that I was identified with in terms of where I was getting my love from, my security from, my sense of value through her, that was all of a sudden just gone. And then the question that was kind of staring me right in the face is like who are you in the absence of this? And so it became like a meditation. For the first 2 months, it was just a lot of tears. It was a lot of crying. It was a lot of why me? I'm such a nice guy. I've tried to mitigate this all my life, avoiding conflict, being nice. But what I learned was they were actually the undercurrent of all of that was trying to avoid an outcome. But in doing so, this is what I call the paradox of transformation. What we're trying to avoid, we end up creating.
Yeah.
So I literally created what I was trying to avoid: rejection, isolation, being alone. But that was also, as we go back to Joseph Campbell, I always love Joseph Campbell's quotes, the cave we're scared to enter contains all the treasure we seek. So here I was looking into this cave of like, are you going to go in, or are you going to go around the cave and continue playing out your past patterns and let the past continue to write the future for you until you kind of wake up and are willing to break those patterns? And after about 2 months of throwing tantrums and saying, why me? I realized this is exactly why I'm here. This divorce has nothing to do with her. This is me divorcing an old version of myself that's asking to be moved on from in a very loving way. And that's kind of where I got led to this huge awakening of like, oh, I get it now. It's, now it's up to me to just accept it and lean in and move into it. Because what I realized in that moment, everything I was trying to change externally, I was being a victim of circumstance. And what was actually really going on was like, hey, all those things you're trying to get from her and the job and everything else, this is your time to learn how to create that from within. And so that was like the big like illumination of like, oh, wait, you're inviting me. And so this is where a part of, like my masculinity that had been so dormant came online of like, you're challenging me to kind of do this. Okay, I like this. This is like, I can turn this into a game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it opened up for me. I would say on the bedroom of my floor, after I left the home I was with my wife, I was pretty much just every day rolling out of bed and crying and asking like, what do I need to do? I would say that's where I awoken on the bedroom floor.
Yeah. And awakening isn't easy for a lot of people. I mean, to really wake up to our non-conscious patterns, because that's what's going on here. If we take ownership that every bit of this is created, right? So whatever she does over there, that's what she does. But what I do with it internally is what matters, right? So when we wake up to, I have these non-conscious patterns over what I think others are doing, thinking, causing, but it doesn't matter. Like the external events are external events, no matter what they are.
Yep.
And, Viktor Frankl talks about when you can't change the situation, now you're forced to change you. That's really what happens is you start waking up to, I've always had the power. I placed it over there as though my value, my worth was over in this person, this situation, this job. And then when we wake up to, I can no longer do that, then the real work begins. And like you say, it becomes a challenge of where do I put the blame on everybody else?
Yep.
Where am I not taking responsibility for my role in all of this, no matter what they did, right? Because it could be so easy to be like, oh, my ex-wife was cheating on me.
Yeah.
And then that becomes the reason for your bad behavior.
Correct. And I internalized and personalized that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I actually started to realize, I was like, wait, those are her actions. They're not mine. I'm interpreting them that they have something to do with me. But let's just zoom out here. Those actions are reflective of her character, her personality, her wounds, her everything, right? Like it did impact me. But I always say this: things happen, events happen. It's the meaning that we give them that causes the suffering. What do I make this mean about me? And I realized for the first 3 months, I was making this divorce mean that I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm this. And these are the contexts, I believe, at the root identity level that most people are living by. And this is why I say my divorce is the greatest gift that ever happened to me, because it brought those contexts up from the shadow those deep identities that I was actually living by even within the marriage. Because, you know, would a person that believes they're good enough, would they like emotionally caretake their wife every moment of every day? No. But I wasn't aware of that. But when I learned the identity that was underneath this, or that was driving the behaviors, I started to see, oh, this is what the gift of this is. It's revealing to me the context I've been living under. And do I want to turn this around? And
yeah. Once you're aware of it, though, and you have that choice of, am I going to continue this story or am I going to turn this around? That's a game changer, because if you tell the story from there, you're choosing into it at that point, right?
Yep, absolutely. What I realized was, you know, we can't really change unless there's awareness. Awareness is always level 1, right? You can't, like, you know, this is why a lot of the work that I do with men is like, men come to me and they're like holding all this judgment against past versions of yourself. And I'm like, who's being the judge here? And they're like, well, me now. And I'm like, but the you now didn't exist then. So this is just futile. Like, do you see what's happening here? You're judging a past version of yourself from an awareness that you didn't have at the time. So why don't we bring some compassion to that dude that was just trying to survive?
It doesn't seem fair, does it? Right? You're not being fair to yourself, really. You know?
Exactly. And I like to bring some humor to it. I'm just like, wait, why is your version of yourself now so damn to, like, you know, convict this guy that he was wrong? I'm like, let's really just go back to that moment. Were you doing the best that you could? Like, and I take them back through these like very visceral emotional processes to bring acceptance to where there is judgment, because I think that is also the big key to transformation and change, that men, I find, can get lost in the intellectualization of feelings or the discipline aspect. And I think the more feminine acceptance stuff of like looking at all the versions of yourself or others you're judging, and how can we bring just a acceptance to that, so that it creates you know, like a peace within you're taking into your future, rather than a war. I think that's so key, especially for men.
Yeah. We in our 12 journeys, the first 6 journeys deal with the inner world. And then the next 5 journeys are about growth and stepping into the unknown, places you've never been before. But the first part is going into the cave, like you say, or going into the roots and making sure that you know what's going on. And all of us have a non-conscious portion, which is the first journey, that is programming, automations, culture, society, all the things we think we're supposed to be. Right. So you talk about this person that judges the old you. Well, the old you is just doing what it was trained to do.
100%.
It's doing the best it could do with what it was trained to do. But the first step in transformation, which is our second journey, is awareness. And without it, you can't do anything. If you don't know that stuff's running, you can't do anything. And the problem with the journey of awareness is, once people become aware, they're judgy, they justify, they hate themselves, they resist themselves, they shame themselves. And that's why our fourth journey is acceptance, is because once you get through the emotions of whatever that judgment is, so which is the third journey, grief, you know, dealing with the emotions, then you go right into acceptance and acknowledging, look, you did what you did. You're doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter. What matters is, are you going to be okay and give yourself some compassion for what is or what was, because you did the best you could with what you had, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it ties into I think it's Maya Angelou who said that you did the best you could with what you had, but now that you know better, you can do better.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with that?
I've heard that before, yeah.
Yeah. What's this bringing up for you? I mean, in that process, why is that so essential that they give themselves that?
Like I said, otherwise then it just becomes, right, like when we're operating in these identities, right, the mind is only trying to look for proof that this, you know, we can be right about this identity existing. So if your context or your identity that you're operating from at a deep unconscious level is, I'm not good enough, then your mind is going to unconsciously create outcomes to prove that true until you become aware of it. So why I think this is so important is like, I truly believe that to write a new future, or I call it rewrite your future. This is one of my group programs. We have to unlearn our past, and we have to go into these mechanisms, or what I call behavioral adaptations, protection mechanisms, identities that we believed we needed to be this way in order to get love, in order to get whatever it is, right? Different people have different kind of reconciliation paths of what it is based on their upbringing. But I believe from my experience, it's so pivotal, because otherwise then if we're just looking to prove ourselves right, we can never be free. This is why I think one of the best questions I ask men is, do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Because if you want to be right about your limitations and your stories and your identity, then, I mean, you can be right about it, but you're going to continue to want to be right about it. So you're going to just seek to prove that.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be free beyond this idea that, like,
yeah.
Maybe we're laughing because we've all been there. Like we've been there. We've tried to be right.
Oh, 100%. I was trying to be right for the first 3-4 months, and I'm like, no, like, look at all this proof. I was so nice, and I was this, and I was this, and it's a very natural human instinct, right? But I think what it comes to for me is, I think I've just been reading this book called Existential Kink, and I love.
I got that book.
I love teaching this with men, because this is the stuff that doesn't get done a lot. It's like, there's a part of us that really gets off on what we don't want.
Yeah.
It's just a part of us that we've created an identity around it where, look, your body chooses what's familiar, what it knows. If it knows chaos, if it knows you being not good enough, it will continue to choose that, because that is what the thermostat is set to. So, but in a weird way, there's parts of us that love it, because if we're the victim, then we might get love through pity. And this is how we've known to get love, right?
Yeah.
And this is a way
and
where
we've become good at it. Like
become
black belt ninja, fucking good at it.
To the point where you could play a character in a movie. This is what I see it as. Like, you've embodied that character of whatever it is that it's just, you don't even need a script anymore. The script writes itself, you know? And this is part of like breaking that, is like, you're actually stepping into a different character. Not because you hate the other one, but because you've become aware of, like, oh yeah, I'm done playing that character. I can love that it existed and it was trying to protect me all these times, but I don't want to continue that.
I've found this to be a truth. What you're speaking right now, we've done 300 interviews like this, and we learn from each guest, what their processes and philosophies are. And there are these consistencies that show up, the rewriting of the story and the ownership of your life. And ownership is simply being honest with what's going on in here, but it's beyond that. It's taking and redirecting that. It's not even controlling it. It's rewriting it, redirecting, recognizing that we're the ones that are writing the narrative no matter.
Yep.
And so that consistency shows up. So I find that as a global truth, is that when you recognize that all of the power always resides right here, no matter what's going on out here.
Yep.
I've been divorced. I could easily say I'm a victim of that divorce, and my ex did this, and it's really hard. And there's no doubt it's hard, but a lot of that hard is self-generated. Mm-hmm. It's because of what I'm making it mean.
Yep.
And so, to really step back and say, my ex is going to do what she does, and I'm going to do what I do, but I'm also the one that makes meaning out of whatever she does.
Yeah.
It brings that story back here. And do I want to keep telling that same damn story over again?
Yeah.
Maybe you get something from it. It's kind of what that existential kink is, right?
Yeah.
No, like, you're really good at doing that, right? But then it's when you start to wake up to really what you want, and there's a healthier version of that. There's a better way. It's just you've become really good at that, and you get something
Oh, the pittier, the better, dude. The more pity
you get more people
better.
saying, "Oh, Nick, I totally understand." Blah blah blah. You know, that type of thing. And I'm saying it for me too, because I've done my part. I've done plenty of that stuff in my time, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah. What do we? Go ahead. If there's more, Ryan.
No, I was just going to add one more thing.
Please do.
I think one other thing I think is really important is like that I found throughout my journey is that, right, the past things happened, right? No one on this planet can change anything that happened in their past. It's impossible. But we can shift our perspective of how we look at it. And I think this has been the most healing thing for me and a lot of the other men that I work for is like changing the perception of how you're looking at your past. So for example, like when my wife cheated on me, right? At the time, I'm just going to be really honest. I did not let myself speak up or be angry or really voice myself. I held a lot in because she was quite fragile at the time and she'd started kind of harming herself. So my immediate thing was like, oh, I must put her needs first, period. Even though I've just got this information, I've looked at all these messages that she's been speaking to another guy. She's been sending him love notes, all this stuff that like completely jarred me, right? So 3 or 4 months on, I went back to that moment and I changed my perception on it. And I was like, all this anger I hadn't expressed and all this rage in me that I didn't let out because of those contexts and identity that I was in at the time, right? And I got to look at that differently and I was like, wait, is it true that she caused me anger or rage? And I went back at that moment when I was wanting to get angry at her and this and this and this. And I realized once I just looked at myself in that moment with nothing but curiosity and compassion, most of the anger that I was holding was that I didn't voice myself.
Yeah.
And so when I shifted that, I was able to actually just release that in the moment and just kind of cry and yell and scream. And that's all that my body needed to actually move on those stuck emotions, energy and motion that were trapped inside my subconscious mind, my body. And once they were released and I had that new perspective, not only did I get my power back, but I was able to have a whole new perspective of my history where I wasn't at war with it and I wasn't wishing it was another way. I was like, oh, that was actually perfect the way it was, because now it's brought me to how important it is to speak my truth no matter what.
That's amazing that you did that for yourself. I don't know what kind of outside influences or what kind of help you had along the way there too. Maybe you could talk about that. But I was also thinking like, there's people that would say, yeah, but Cody, like that sounds neat and wonderful and everything. But what about what she did to me?
Yeah.
She did this to me, you know, and it's really, it's they're holding on to that. They want to be right about that because that did happen. It's super shitty that your wife cheated on you. Yeah. But then this is where some of the triggers come in sometimes for clients or ourselves, because we're doing the work too. But what about this? They want the wanting to be right again.
Mm-hmm.
How do you coach somebody through that where it's not as easy to just be like, oh yeah, if I take personal responsibility and I look at what's happening in me, like fuck you, this isn't me. This was done from somebody else. What would you say to that?
I would say 2 things. Get the book Loving What Is by Byron Katie and read it with an open mind and prepare yourself to be wrong. Like rather than be right? But first of all, I would just ask you with this. She did that to me. That is a belief, right? It's a thought. Is it true that she, I just asked this question. Is it true? And then can you know for sure that she planned this and actually did this against you? The answer for most people is like, well, I can't know that for sure. And then I would just ask you to do the 4 questions of Byron Katie and put it up to inquiry, which is where you get to kind of turn it around and play around and look at it in a different angle. And most of the times it comes back to, she did this to herself, right? Because I asked her 5 or 6 months down the line, and I asked her some questions, and she said, Cody, what I did, that had nothing to do with you. I hated myself at that time. I couldn't tell you that I was unhappy. I couldn't tell you this. I couldn't tell you. I just needed to do something to explode things, because that's all that I knew how to do.
Sometimes that's the self-sabotage of the martyr, right? That's coming out, or the need to get something so that you don't have to face the truth of what's really going on inside of here.
And then on top of that, I would say, what do you get out of? What do you get out of making it that it is about you, telling yourself that story? She did this to me, which means that if she did do this to me, that means that I'm what? Not lovable or not good enough. Okay, so there's your context, there's your identity. Is it true that I'm not good enough? Is it true? That's underneath it. You're just taking that external thing and you're making, again, what we said before, making it mean something about us. I want to give you your power back. What are you making it mean about you? And is that even true? Do you want to believe that about yourself? And maybe for now you do, and that's okay too. Like, really just be at peace with, if you really believe at this moment you're not good enough, can you accept that's where you are in this moment? I'm not, there's power in that too.
It gives some grace to it too. It gives grace to them for what they're experiencing and whatever's going on over there that had them create that for themselves. Mm-hmm. It gives grace to you that whatever they did doesn't mean anything about you unless you want to bring that in. And even if you did bring it up, that it meant something about you, and you went down that road, because we get reactionary when we get triggered. Yep. Our fight or flight goes in and our brain shuts down and we get reactive and protective. And so we react to things. Uh-huh. And so even if we do that, when we get our brain back and we're re-empowered, to give ourselves grace for even doing that, because when you're in your reactions, your body just goes into fight or flight. And they show in research, you really don't have a say how it shows up from reaction, but you do have a say once you become conscious.
Yes, correct. And in my I've been doing a lot of study biologically into stuff and adaptations, and I would actually take it a step further, that those adaptations your body is making is only existing under the context of your identity. If you dissolve the identity, I've found with a lot of men that I've worked with, those reactions actually slowly dissolve over time, because then they don't, once they're outside of the identity, they don't need to defend themselves essentially about that. Their human animal is more relaxed. What I like to use is this quick story here, is to spell it out. I like to use like analogies or examples for people, right? So if you're walking down the street and a random person just stops and looks at you and was like, Cody, you're an asshole, right? And I started defending myself and I got activated, right? That activated something in me. And I'm like, no, wait, you're an asshole. You're an asshole for calling me an asshole, right? What that tells
What's your name?
Yeah, what's your name?
Tony. F you, Tony.
What that tells me is the person, right? Not the stranger, the person that reacted to being called an asshole, he already believed on a level that he is an asshole.
Yeah.
And those words computed something into his brain, into his body, and activated the already existing belief that I'm an asshole, right? If a person comes up to you and says that and you don't believe that about yourself, you're just going to be like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, right? It literally happened to me like 3 months ago. Some guy just came up to me and like pulled me the finger and just started like yelling at me.
Like, thanks for saying hello.
I literally said to him, I said,
look, hello, fellow asshole.
Like I looked at him, I was like, looks like you're having a good day. And he's like, you just don't fucking understand. And I just walks away. 3 years ago, I would have probably defended myself and been like, what are you doing, dude? Get away. Like, but like, it's always telling, if you're triggered, right? Use it as an invitation to say, take it away from the person, just take that away and say, what did this situation bring up in me that I'm already believing about myself before this person even came along?
Let's hit on this, because that trigger is the thing we try to avoid. We like, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to put myself in a situation, but that trigger is the indication that there's something in you that still needs healing.
Yep.
Because if you're getting triggered by it, that means it's still there. Yeah. Because people could do anything literally, and it wouldn't trigger you if your identity was stable enough that's no longer a factor for you. Correct. And that identity, like you speak to, that is all generated memories of all of your past experiences that you've carried forward, that are now your belief systems, value systems, et cetera. They're different person to person. So having this moral high ground of, I would never do that. Well, you used to, you probably did.
Yeah.
So this identity of who you think you are, and then getting triggered by somebody says, well, you still got some identity that isn't completely okay with whatever that thing was that triggered you. Right.
Yeah. I actually welcome it. I'm like, thank you. This is an opportunity to kind of get to see what I can't see on a daily basis. I think when other people do this for me, it's like, oh, thank you. Like, no, I didn't know that still was buried there, but that's fun.
was buried there.
Yeah.
like Disneyland.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating. And honestly, I think, right, I'll just speak to a little bit after my divorce. I didn't really go on any dates. I just stayed on by myself for 2 to 3 years. And I really went on this deep inner journey, which I got to the end of, and I realized, like, okay, it's great to spend alone time. It's great to unpack things, but there really is, I really believe relationships are like the playground or the dojo where it's constructed in a way. I mean, the whole world is built on relationships,
right?
Friendships, relationship, whatever it is, right? But particularly romantic relationships, they will reveal things about you that,
oh my God,
you want to either hide from, or so it's like,
and it has nothing to do with the partner. Nope. It's just that they become a mirror. You start to really bring your own shit up in relationship, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you guys this story, because I think this is important for people to know. Like, when, first of all, I'll tell 2 little stories. So about 2 years after I was, I went through the breakup, and I was just starting to consider getting back into, dating. I was living with my cousin at the time in New Zealand, and they said, oh, there's this really cute American girl that's just moved down the street. We want to set you up on a date with her. And I was just like, sure, whatever, let's do it. So I went on a date with her, and we started talking, and she started saying stuff to me like, oh yeah, I don't really like being alone. Like, if we were to date, I'd always just want to be around you, and this and this and this. Now, this was like an out-of-body experience for me, because I had been attracted to girls in the past where I could have that, let's say, the superior power dynamic, where my brain was like, oh, looking for girls to help that were in challenging situations. This is just like full honesty here. And I would like girls that would not want to be independent, right? So we could codepend. So it was interesting when I heard this from this girl, my whole body was like, ugh, yuck. Yeah. And I just noticed in that moment, wow, there's a shift here. I don't want what I used to crave. And okay, interesting. Very interesting. Flash forward another 1.5 years when I just moved to Austin, and I just come over for a retreat here called Awaken the Artist Within with Garen Jones. And I had this experience at the retreat where he just said, I just want to see if everyone is open and willing to receive love. And I thought I was. And then I realized we did this deep process into our body. My heart was still very much guarded. He helped us kind of open it up. And within 10, 15 minutes, there was 2 girls at the retreat that were extremely attracted to me, that this wasn't happening before. And then flash forward another couple of weeks later, I met my now partner by complete just flow. And the first night we were together after living together, she was like, okay, I'm going to go to this party. It's a dress up party. Do you want to come? And I said, no, I'm really tired. I just want to stay home. And so she comes out and she's dressed in this amazing outfit, like kind of skimpy goddess kind of outfit. And I was just like, all my trust things came up. And I was like, oh, interesting. This is the first test. And me in the past, 3 years ago, my programming would have been like, okay, I want to know where you're going. I want like chickens and this and that. And I had this moment where I was like, you have a choice. How do you want to respond to this? Because do you trust her? And I was like, yes. Internally, I was, talking to myself, and I had this real peace come over me that if she's going to do anything that crosses boundaries of mine or values of mine, that's just going to give me information. And I'm going to stay in my power. If she does anything, I'm just going to either leave or have a conversation or whatever it is. And I noticed again, where I would normally avoid this conflict and want to like mitigate the outcome I was trying to avoid, there was just a peace within me. So all the stuff was coming up. I was just like, just go and have a great time. I'll see you when you get home later. Right. And then I was going through all my stuff after she left. Now, she got home really late and I woke up in the middle of the night as she was getting home, and she stayed out like in the living room. And this is what my ex-wife used to do at the end of our relationship when she didn't want to come to bed. So all of this stuff was coming up. Oh no, has she met a guy? Does she want to leave? And all these things. And I was like, no, that's so old, recycled. Let's not copy and paste this on. And I go out to the living room and she's writing on a bit of paper. And I said, hey, what's up? And she said, can I talk to you? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she said, I want to let you know that how happy I am right now. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, this is the first time I've ever gone out when I'm in a relationship with a man where I felt free to be me without any guilt or resentment on that my partner's wanting to hear from me and there's this cord attached to me. And she's like, I really get the idea that you trust me. And she's like, I've never felt this before. And she's like, I had the time of my life. And I was like, whoa, okay, well, let me tell you what was going on for me. And then we shared about it.
Let me tell you about this shitstorm that came up that I had to deal with while you were gone.
There's nothing wrong with that shitstorm. Like this.
Okay, but so it freed me
good.
Too.
Yeah. So
it freed me and it freed her. And so this is what, like, did I want to be right about the things happening again potentially, or me projecting my past hurt and forming future fear? Or did I want to kind of stay present and be like, wait, I can see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And then we both were free. She was free at the party and I was actually free at home, even though it was still bringing up some stuff. I was free outside because I knew no matter what she did, I was in my power.
I created an AI app for this, because I would get in my emotions and I couldn't see clear. So a trigger would come up, I'd be triggered, I'd be flooded with chemicals, and I wanted to create something that would call me on my bullshit so that I wouldn't project that or put that over on my girlfriend. Because I have a beautiful girlfriend who goes out, she'll go dancing, I won't be with her, and stuff does come up for me, but it's not hers. And I know that, so I don't put that on there. So I trust her, things like this. But I developed this app because it's like, hey, I got shit coming up. Like, how do I deal with this? And it's like, dude, this is your problem. And I'm like, fuck you, because it speaks so directly. And it's like, let me tell you also why that's your problem. And I'm glad we're hitting this because that nerve right there is exactly what we need to pay attention to. Yeah. But we do that in relationship because of past hurts. We feel justified in projecting those on a current partner who's never done anything like that to us. And then we start creating the very thing that we're afraid of creating. Yep. And so we get confirmation. And the truth is, it doesn't matter that these things come up in you. That's fine that they come up in you. It just means, like you say, that's something you need to pay attention to. And I say you, like pointing at me, because it has nothing to do with that other person. Like you said, if my girlfriend, which she has never given me any reason to not trust her, it would be information if she did, which she never has. Like she's she's so guarded of our relationship and loving of our relationship. So anything that would come up in me would be mine to own.
Yeah.
And so as much as I can own that, pay attention to it without projecting that on her, like it's, oh, look what you're doing to me. She didn't do a damn thing to me. Right. I did something to me with what I thought about what was going on there. Right.
Exactly.
But to have that space like you did with your girlfriend is so freeing to be, look, it doesn't mean something didn't come up within me. It just means this is what I did with it so that you could go be you and I could, start to heal that in me.
Yeah.
Right. That's so powerful, and that's where, this app that I use is like, it's all AI generated.
Get out of your shit, Nick.
That's exactly it. Own your shit, dude. Stop putting your stuff over on other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's very freeing because then we have a chance to really like step into a new story. Like, do I want to keep telling this?
Yeah, exactly. Right? And that is literally rewrite your future in action. And this is why I've created like men's groups around this, because I wanted to, my mission is to give men the tools so that they can do this.
Hi, baby. Yeah.
Right. Like I want, oh, is that your,
yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to empower the men with these tools so that they can rewrite their own futures like now and into the future, right? Because it's like our future's always being rewritten. Like there's always going to be new stuff that kind of presents itself, new patterns we get into, and then, we're always at the mercy of that, that past.
Right.
One other thing I want to mention, which I don't think gets talked about a lot after divorce, is men's community. Because this was huge for me, is all growing up, because I was into drama, the arts and all that stuff. I was into sports too. I played a lot of sports, but I was kind of like, want to be everyone's friend, nobody's enemy kind of thing. So I had like lots of friends that were just like half friends, and I was all these like different versions around people. After my divorce, I was like, man, I don't have any strong, powerful men around me. Like that intimidates me. So I was like, okay, let's go. It's interesting how I got put into a retreat space. I was going to go in and film a documentary on this men's retreat in New Zealand called Way of the Warrior. And then last minute, the guy running the retreat was like, no, we don't want to do the documentary. But because you're already basically here, come to the retreat. I'll give you half off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to participate now. And so it was like 4 days of like deep healing, transformation, and jujitsu, sweat lodging stuff. And what I learned at that retreat was that there is real power in doing this work with other men. Men, I think, do the whole lone wolf thing a lot, where they're carrying a lot of other people's burdens. They're really good at carrying other people's burdens and just giving and giving and giving. But when it takes to sit in a room and receive for 3 or 4 days, that can be very challenging for a lot of men, because it's like, well, I give so that I don't have to have the potential for my heart to get hurt, because if I just give and give and give. But when you're receiving, you have to be vulnerable, right? So I remember on day one of this retreat, I got up and did a speech about my stuttering and my divorce and everything. Then one of the leaders got up after me and was like, man, your speech was so inspiring. I'm going to talk about my dyslexia that I've never spoken about before. Wow. He had a lot of shame around it. And he was one of the leaders. I mean, he was like a awesome light being dude, but there was this one thing that my speech obviously activated. And
I like that word, activated over triggered.
Oh, yeah.
That's a powerful transformation right there.
Well, it was for him, right? It was not like to pull him down. And so he gave this speech about it. And halfway through the speech, he just needed to cry. And so there was a room of 20 men, and we just watched this dude crying for like 5 minutes, like crying out. This was old stuff. And then all of a sudden, it was like some higher intelligence was guiding all the men, and we just slowly started to walk into him and surround him. And we, like all 20 of us, just started to hug him and sing this indigenous love song from New Zealand to him that we all knew. And he was holding this crystal like this big in his hand. And he was like crying and crying while we were doing this beautiful song to him. And then all the men started crying, tears that they'd never cried, because it was this like unification of love. And then
it gives them permission to cease another masculine man, open up and be authentic and vulnerable and cry. It gives all the other ones permission to do the same thing and a safe place to do it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Open up. And everyone, I could feel everyone was just like, oh, and like no one had done this in unison with other men. And it was that powerful. There was that many tears, and the song got that loud. The crystal in his hand that was that big exploded. It just went in the middle of his hand, and all crystal shards went everywhere. And if you guys know crystals, they are pretty, if you throw them at the ground, they don't even break. This was like a vibration that I experienced, that the men in that room were vibrating in love that high. And as we know, love is one of the highest frequencies, that the crystal, the rose quartz, which is a love crystal, just exploded.
Wow.
And in that moment, I was like, whoa, okay, this work is powerful, because that is literal Harry Potter magic, whatever you want to call it, because there's no other way that could have exploded. He was just holding it.
Yeah.
And it was that unification of love. And I'll never forget that moment. And that really is what prompted me to be like, oh, I think this is what men need, because those experiences, you can't write that in a script. Like, it just happens.
You're not getting a lot of that in corporate America. We don't stand around and hug and cry together and hold crystals and stuff.
We don't, but we could, and that brings up societal expectations, which just a thought here is anything outside of you that is influenced by somebody other than you becomes societal. So as soon as you allow others to tell you how you should be, or you allow that in and you start judging yourself by what you think others think, then that becomes, you're putting your energy out there, and that becomes societal.
Yeah.
Right. And society is so fickle. There's so many different versions. I look at, online, there's this guy named Cody Mathieson. He's got millions of followers. He's like, this is how you have a good relationship. And the dude's single. It's like, come on, man, you're going to give relationship advice so you don't even have a girlfriend? Like, fuck you. Right. Like the truth is that these societal expectations can influence, and you start to second guess your intuition. And you look at that, where you create this vibration of love from the outside. Other people might look at that, oh, that's a bunch of sissies over there, like singing ooh la la or whatever with a crystal. It's like, no, you have no idea how impactful that can be, to be around other people that empower you, that help you to see your value, and they're not judging you as though you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, men and women, that's incredible.
It is. Yeah. I think it's more the world. Most people don't know they need it, but they do know, like, even people that project stuff like that, to me, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, that person really wants to do that, but maybe he would be afraid to open himself up to an environment like that, because Pandora's box, like I was telling my dad, these stories after I came back from the retreat, and he just said to me, he's like, that sounds amazing. I wish I could do that, but I'm scared what would happen if I open Pandora's box. And I'm like, yeah, I understand, Dad. Like,
it's like the ignorance is bliss type of thing, keeping your head in the sand.
Yeah. And also just, men haven't been taught these tools. So it's like, my whole thing is living beyond definition is really what the world needs, beyond those labels and constructs. And I think men need to know these tools so that they can lead by example. And I do really believe, even though most of the outdated structures in this world are very masculine, and obviously a lot of men are in power. I do believe this new generation of men coming through that are more connected to their hearts, to true power, that's not looking to get or scare anything, but true power empowers. I really do believe that the more men we get into that frequency where they've healed a lot of the wars within, I really do believe that is going to create massive healing for not only other men on the planet, but women on the planet too. Because women have been craving for these men for so long. And I think it's like that, what a beautiful gift we can give to the world, right? By leading by example. That's all we can do.
I think what comes up is control. Like we control as an illusion is we think we can control people, situations, things, and it's an illusion. It's illusory. The reality is the only thing we have influence over is ourselves. And that might inspire somebody, that might influence them to do something for themselves. But this idea of, like, if you think back to your girlfriend, if you had tried to control that, it would have been an illusion of control. Like, you can't go out in that. Like, who are you with? What are you doing? That's an illusion of control. And then you start creating this thing that you think you're controlling, but you're just creating this stuff that doesn't have to be created.
Yeah.
And that's where, like you're talking about these men coming up that have that more balanced view of the world is that they're letting go of that control, and they're working more towards, how can I influence by who I'm being, right? How can I hold space for somebody else by who I'm being?
Yep.
Rather than making them be something that maybe they're not, right?
Who am I in the absence of needing to control anything? That's what I pose to men all the time. It's just like, think about that, vision that, feel what it would be like to actually, who would you be in the absence of needing to control anything? I bet you'd be a lot less stressed and a lot less contracted and a lot less like in your head. You'd just be able to just be a lot more than, and this is still an ongoing journey for me too. I see little pockets of my life where I'm, trying to control in a very subtle way. And every time I catch myself, it's just like, who would I be if I didn't need to control this right now?
Yeah. Right.
Simple little questions you can just keep prompting yourself.
And how would I show up? How would I respond versus react to this if I wasn't trying to control it?
Yep.
You get quicker and quicker at doing it. It doesn't take you out for weeks and months and years now. It's like, oh, there's the noticing, boom. Or you might feel it come up even before you start to say something or start to do something, and then you're like, I know what to do. That's a beautiful, empowering gift. As you develop those tools, you start taking more swings, at the bat. You start connecting more. You start growing. You start shifting. You start adjusting. Things that used to be a big deal now don't hardly even phase you. Maybe not even phase you anymore. That is it. That's doing the work, baby. I love it. That's awesome.
Cody, so question around that, what Ryan just talked about, and the theory of these things that we talked about versus the identity and the character of these things. How does somebody move from theory to identity?
Can you just give a little more context with that in terms of what I think you're saying is like, there's like an intellectual knowing of something versus an embodiment of it.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. Yep.
So this is actually, I've created a group at the moment, Rewrite Your Future, where I've coached men for the last 2.5 years. And I think the biggest thing that I notice where men after divorces or in big life transitions, right, they throw themselves into what I call the self-development roller coaster. They consume all the podcasts, the books, the YouTube channels, and they're just hoarding what I call information, right?
Okay, quit calling me out, dude. This isn't.
I've been there too, so I'm calling myself out.
Yeah.
And it's what I've noticed with most men is it's got great intentions, but it's actually a trap a lot of the time, because what it does is it keeps us in the world of mind and intellectualization. And I think the new currency for a lot of men that's not being taught is integration, information to integration. right? Yeah, exactly. You feel attacked because this is like, this is an extension where the identity grows, right? So I had an identity for so long where, I need to wake up and look at what the next thing I need to fix is, right? So again, context underneath that. I'm still operating on the I'm not good enough. Does a person that believe they're good enough wake up and say, what do I need to fix? No, right? They could just find an internal peace. So I think the bridge from information to integration is looking at the world of opposites. So once you have all this knowledge of like, I have been doing this, right? Look at everything. Like, what is the opposite of everything? What are the things you're scared to do? What is the opposite of all the patterns that are coming up? And just start doing them. Like literally, if your pattern is to get up in the morning and jump into self-help books or podcasts and this, what if you just spent that 1 hour with yourself doing the opposite, where you don't need information, where all the information you could possibly need is right here in your body in stillness, right? Is starting to do the opposite. So you're challenging that identity. Again, it's who am I in the absence of this?
Yeah. Well, yep.
Right? So it's like, and it's not going to be easy. The more you do that, the more the ego's going to want to take you back to what you know and what's familiar. But also what it's doing is it's helping you illuminate things as to like, why do these patterns exist? And then also like how much power there is in, kind of taking it back. But I think integration, honestly, for most men is the real hurdle, because a lot of men get comfortable in that consummation rather than the action and the embodiment, and I think that's why I created my group program, Rewrite Your Future, because I wanted to create a program that bridged that gap for men, because that's where most men, they know what they want. They're stuck in those old contexts and identity where, they're just like one step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is where people will be set free, is really looking inside. There is no solution out here. There's none out here. It's all, whatever happens out there is I love the word activating. It's the activation of what you need to pay attention to. And like your dad, like if you choose to stay there, you can stay there. That's an option.
Yeah.
But there's this opportunity for you to do it a little differently. And it's up to you whether you answer the call. It's Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. Absolutely. If you answer the hero's call, well, that's up to you. And there's no requirement. And so that's where we can really play with, stuff's going to come up. You're going to have battles in that hero's journey. You're going to have stuff that shows up that activates you. And now it's a rewriting of that story. And that might take time. It might take practice. You might be really terrible at it for a bit, right?
100%. You got to be okay with being amateur and being, crap at it. It's like my thing with jiu-jitsu, right? Starting jiu-jitsu. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 4 months, starting as a white belt. It's like, you just got to be okay with being like an awkward teenager button mashing on a PlayStation controller. But what I will say is this. There's a very simple way. A lot of men, I think, also get caught up in like, well, I need to do this to get to some outcome where I'm happy and at peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We can't operate that way. Like you're losing that battle, because if you're putting your happiness and your peace in a future outcome, as you move towards that, the energy that actually created it's going out, and you'll never get there, because the energy that created it is, well, I don't have it now, so it's not available to me now. The most easiest way that I say you can move into like a peaceful life is wherever you are, whatever turmoil you're in, or whatever transition or whatever period you're in, if you can fully accept where you are, that you don't need to be anywhere else other than where you are in this moment on this day, that is the beginning of a cascade that will create a future beyond your imagination. Because if you can't accept where you are, no future is going to give that to you, because the future is always created now. And it starts now. So any energy that is created in the now, that is creating the future. So if you believe that peace and happiness is not available to you in the turmoil, you're going to head into that future with that same energy, looking for things and chasing for things, and you're not going to find it.
Yeah.
So that's a very simple way to ground men back in, to just be like, can you just be okay with where everything is at right now, even if it's shambles, whatever and even get beyond the labels. Can you just be okay with where you're at?
I've got this bracelet on right here that I had made. It says OWN it, OWN, an acronym, right? Opportunity, worth, and now. The opportunity is all around you. Your worth is internal. It can't be outsourced. And now is the only time you've got, right?
Yep.
And so when you talk about that, happiness is never out here. Your happiness, your opportunities for it are right here. Your worth around that happiness is right here. The only time you're going to feel happiness is right here. Mm-hmm. And unless you own the inner world, you're not going to experience any of that. You're going to continue to put it out there. So the moment you can own it, that's when it all shifts. Yeah.
Yep. That one for men is the biggest one, I feel like. And the other one that comes up in divorce is I need her love. That's a common, and it's like, no, let's turn that around. I need my own love. How has that been absent in the relationship? How are you no woman loves being, I need your love is an extremely suffocating thing that woman can feel. If you need her love, think about what pressure that puts on a woman. You know, we're not going to do that as men.
Right.
We can't. Right. We can't. It's not her responsibility. And it's like, you're only doing that because that identity is operating, and that something happened to that kid where he believed that he needed to be a certain way to get love from those around him, in order to avoid rejection, hurt, whatever it is. Everyone's got their different version of it. But that's where the pain for most men starts. I need your love. That before even the relationship starts.
You mentioned the word codependent.
Yeah.
Codepend. I had to look up the etymology of depend, and it means like a pendant, right? To hang, or to be heavy. Yeah. So if we're codependent, we're putting that pendant on our partner and saying, I need you to carry me.
Yeah.
Right. And that's heavy. Like, that's not their job to carry you.
Yeah.
If I'm codependent in a relationship, that means I can't carry myself. I got to put that on somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's heavy. And most of us aren't equipped to do that for another person. We're just barely even hanging on for ourselves.
And it keeps that person most likely from doing their work as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and keeps them both stuck.
Yeah. Well, you're both playing a role for each other. You're both taking each other's power away, but that's how the dynamic,
right?
Both people want that dynamic. That's the funny thing. They don't realize it, but they do. They love it. They really get off on it because, I remember when I was codependent with my wife, it was like, oh, if you don't need my help, then where do I get my value from? So let me create things so I can help you to get my value through you. And oh, now I can relax. I feel valuable. I've helped you,
Right.
And I was loving that, but now it's kind of just like, I don't really desire that from a relationship. There's enough stuff, I want to help myself elevate. I don't need to get it through you.
That right there. Yeah. I no longer need a relationship. I want a relationship, but I don't need a relationship so that I can feel better about myself, or so that I can have something that might be missing over there. So I want to work alongside somebody that's doing their own work. I'm doing my work, and together our lives are enhanced because of it. Not
compliment.
I need you to show up a certain way. Yeah. Compliments.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's two wholes coming together to, this whole myth that like the half and half coming together to make a whole, I think is just so outdated and just like, you complete me, all that nonsense we get spewed by Hollywood. And
I just saw like Dr. Evil, like
not even Hollywood, 1950s Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap. Let's update a little bit here.
I know. Let's get out of this nuclear family, white picket fence stuff. It's like,
Yeah, there's a lot of shifting.
I want a house like on a big piece of land with a roller coaster. Like, let's have some fun. You know what I mean? It's like, on this boring white picket fence, stuff. It's like, why?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Cody, as a wrap up here, as a final message, for our viewers, of one thing they could hear from you that would have them really anchor in your message, or just something you really feel like they need to listen or hear this, right? What would that be?
It's a great question. I would say take the one thing we've discussed from today that frustrated you the most, or annoyed you the most, or where you were like, that's a load of shit, or whatever your reaction was, and spend some time with that. And
it could be the whole show.
Yeah, could be the whole thing.
Right.
And I guarantee
I was just angry the entire time. Sorry.
If you are committed to looking at that in a new way, with maybe a question like, what is this trying to teach me? Rather than, why am I so committed to being angry, or whatever it is, right? If you can start learning to do that, you're going to shift the whole way you look at your life, as there's nothing that's actually not here to help you. And that was the biggest shift for me, because I could say, like, listen to this, but really my MO is like, I want you to trust yourself. So everything that I do is just a doorway for you to more deeply trust yourself. I want you to cultivate that power within. I want you to learn how to connect with your intuition. I want you to learn how to create stillness for all these things that like activate you or trigger you. It's like, there's nothing I could tell you, because the answers. I'm just here to reflect what you're not willing yet to maybe believe. And those things that are frustrating you, that's the things that are going to move the needle.
I like that. Yeah, so, that if you could rewind or this whole show or fast forward to just one part, it would be that part right there. Yeah. Listen to this and then go back all the way through and everything else, right? Annoyed. Yeah. Do it.
Whatever stirred the fires within.
Yeah, I like that. Ryan, final thoughts from you?
There was a comment from Hugh, and it said, "Who is Cody today?" And I'm going to tell you my view of Cody and of so far.
Yeah.
And that is one beautiful human that went through what could be viewed as some pretty really like tough things, some really, really hard things. But because of those hard things, I'm so grateful, Cody, because you're modeling what it looks like to really do the work, and to really allow others to see you doing that work, and then open up and to be able to see it a better way, a different way. And so you're helping others elevate and do their own work, to find that inner peace, that empowerment. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like there's things every day that hit me that I'm like, fudge, like, I don't know why I choose to censor myself then, fudge, but there's some stuff that still comes up almost daily. And it's the thing that the big shift for me has been the gratitude for those things. I used to hate it. I used to avoid it. I used to run from it, pretend it didn't exist. And now it's, okay, why is that coming up? Thank you for coming into my awareness, because now I can shift. Now I could do something about it. And it's changed my entire life. It's changed my entire life, and my view of so many things, that this life is about experience. It's happening for me, not to me. And really, I'm in control of any and every outcome. And that's how I see you, Cody. You're doing that, and appreciate your time, appreciate who you're being in the world. Men and women, all of us, we need this. We need this. This is something that is going to shift the collective consciousness, and you're doing it. So thank you, Cody, for being on the show and just filling up my cup today and allowing me to re-see it. I got you. I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys for taking the time, and it's been my pleasure. I love riffing about this stuff.
Yeah, it's good. You can tell it's ingrained. It's deep in there, and there's a difference between people who speak from experience and those who speak from theory. You know, the idea of something, and you can feel it. You know, and I'm grateful to hear your journey and how that's affected you, because I could see that in my own journey. If I was reflecting back, you know, if we go back to the very first episode here all the way to today, you would see a journey in our evolution as far as how we've grown to even be able to hear what you're saying. Because back then, original me, you know, he wouldn't have been able to hear this and then not integrate it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So, and if I was to guess, you probably, when you started, this might be totally wrong, were you guys presenting this way more seriously? And because I love how much fun you guys are having with this now.
Oh yeah, dude, I was so uptight.
Were you like, yeah, welcome to Wake Up the Giants. We need to, this is a giant show, so I need to act like a giant.
You're getting off track. Let's get back on track here. That's not the question I asked.
It's called the most unprofessional professional show. So
yeah, we are definitely a lot more relaxed now.
I can tell you
it's an evolution, though. You got to allow yourself to suck at something. Like this is my first published book here, The Art of Accomplishment. And I wrote in there, in order to get what you want out of life, you got to be willing to suck at something long enough to get good at it. And most people won't.
Yeah, got to start it. Like, you know, messy action is the way. You know, just start it and evolve, like you say.
Messy action is the way. I like that. I like that. You got a lot of nuggets here. This has been a powerful show. For those that are watching, thank you for all of your comments. Share this with somebody you know could use this message today. Grab the link. It's in YouTube. It's live in Facebook. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. You need to do that so you can see when we go live.
Every single dang time. You gotta hit the alert button.
Every single dang time. So I don't know what you're waiting for, but go hit the subscribe button and share this with somebody that could use this message today. And by all means, go follow Cody on Instagram. There's his link. That's been across the bottom of the page throughout the whole thing. And like we always say, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're doing what you need to be doing. Make those minor tweaks and adjustments because eventually they're going to be your character and identity. And that's how you become a giant. So thank you for being on with us. Go make it a giant day. And we will see you in the next episode.
Love you too.